Gruff, can we track back a fortnight? Do you know what did you learn from the Munster out there?
Yeah, hopefully some pretty valuable lessons. We played a side who, to be fair, said afterwards they showed some respect for how we attack in the mid-third, how we defend in the mid-third. So they taught us some lessons with their kicking game, and we're going to have to take them on board pretty quickly because that was a pretty chastening experience, and learn how they applied the right sort of pressure. Similar to Leinster as well, early season, with a good defensive mindset from them to shut us down. So even though we're going to be relatively pleased with third position in the league and some tough away fixtures done, I think probably two of the most valuable games away from the wins we've had could be those two losses, and the Munster game in particular has been a strong reference for us. Trying to use the Anglo-Welsh games to patch up a couple of things, learnings around that game, but also then about progressing towards Glasgow. Whilst seeing young players perform consistently in a young shirt, so the Munster game's been a good one for us in that respect.
You mentioned your kicking game. Josh played international rugby last week. Is he available this weekend?
Yes, he is, yeah.
How did you see his performance? And indeed, yeah, your kicking game over in Ireland?
I was more so complimenting Munster's kicking game really, and every kick they put up was contestable. Our positional game wasn't good enough to deal with that. So there's some lessons there, not so much as much as the backfield, but how we apply from our frontline positioning to working back off kicks and what comes next, whether we gather the ball or not. But the cause and effect of that is also that you're playing the game in your own third, and some of our kicking strategy to exits was having a bit too much pressure on Josh as a 10. So that's something we've got to share the load. When Josh is at 12, sometimes when Dan is at 15, we can do that to complement Sam or Biggs, and we didn't obviously necessarily have that balance for that game. So again, it's another reference point for our exit strategy.
What went wrong with your line-out on the night? It's been quite good this season, and yet it was calamitous, wasn't it, really?
Yes, I suppose there's aspects of stress early on. We had a couple of calls that didn't flow for one reason or another, and then probably the players went into their shell, but also compounding individual set piece mistakes was open play mistakes. So you see that from individuals. Mistake of set piece became a mistake, whether with ball in hand or defensive missed tackles. So one followed the other, and we were into a pretty dark hole by that point. And you try as coaches give messages for clarity. You encourage a bit of problem solving with the 9 and 10 and line out caller, but we were going 2 scores down. At 14-0, I felt we did have a couple of opportunities to get back in the game before and after half time. We didn't take them, and then, as I said, we gave a soft run away, and that was game over.
So it's how are you sort of viewing the opposition this weekend? Is it a good time to be playing it?
Yeah, it is. It's probably a good time to be playing us. The calendar as it is, and we've spoke before about the challenges of the season as it is, but you just get on with it, and Glasgow get on with it. Two sides shorn of the international contingent, and so yeah, you don't overanalyse perhaps what the opposition put out. Obviously they struggled down at Llandarcy a couple of weeks ago, but then so did we in Munster, so both sides have got points to prove with a different mix of players.
With the Anglo-Welsh matches, have any players put their hands up over the last fortnight?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching them, stepping back and being able to see and observe all aspects of the training, and then how they've taken on the information from coaches and applied that in the games. We see both young 10s, Luke and Phil on the weekend, being able to run a game in different ways, taking some massive amount of learning over where and how to play on the open side, go back down to the short side, trust others, bring forwards into the game. And so there's some good strands of learning there. And outside of that, I've been thrilled to see someone like Joe Thomas, who's been in and around that environment for a while, show some decisiveness. And I've made a point in front of the group of showing the quantity of ball carries and the amount of touches he got on the ball. Shows a willingness that and an understanding perhaps that he's grown in that environment, and he's been with us a while, as I said, but that's a step that we've been really pleased to see with Joe. And again, people like Dav Howells, Tom Flaherty, really adding to our stocks in the wider channels. That's been pleasing to see as well. As I've got to say, people like Spratt and Grabham, really add some important messages to the working week to help those young guys get the best out of themselves. And that's just the backs. Obviously, there's forwards who've stepped up well accordingly as well.
Is Sam Underhill, did he come through okay?
Yeah, and again, a good period of play for Sam. looking really combative as a ball carrier. I think we're all searching for effective ball carrying game, and he gets square. He's obviously got a physical prowess, which is a point of difference on him. So it's been really good to see, and a couple of key turnovers as well in the Blues game certainly, which set us on our way. Really thrilled to have him back in the mix. And as I said, we've got a young blend, but it's one that's similar to the back end of last year, and Sam was instrumental in that.
Can we expect to see Kieran Fournier this weekend?
Yeah, he's certainly available. The last couple of weeks he's been doing some conditioning work, some extra skill-based work, and coming up to speed with our calls and language. He's a full part of our team training now, and there's a lot of selection conundrums around players being available, a couple of illnesses in the camp, but he's certainly been in the mix for the 23.
Where will you be looking at him, as a wing or as a centre?
As a centre primarily.
Right. You said a few weeks ago, you hoped he would be able to hit the ground running. Presumably that's still the case.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, as I said, we've been trying to put some extra skill-based work into him. He's a very skillful athlete, but again, another thing for him is explosiveness in the wide channel. It's something we crave in terms of the way we're trying to play the game. Glasgow's a fast track, both sides liking to play good rugby, albeit we both perhaps understand the importance of the kicking game and being able to use that effectively, but someone like Fournier could be an integral part of that.
Gruff, you got any injured players coming back over the next sort of few weeks? Is Tyler on the mend? Or?
He is on the mend, but certainly not in time for this week.
What's the position with Hanno?
Hanno is very mentally tough and durable, and thinks he's probably ready now, but realistically, we're still looking at probably a Christmas timeline. Maybe the second Grenoble game might be a thing he can certainly aim for. But again, as always these cases, we'll build it up slowly and be as sure as we can be, he'll be right. I guess
you were really proud, to see Sam coming off the bench and kicking that drop goal at the weekend.
Yeah, I was, and I just, I also loved that moment where Sam just sees space, plonks it in there, and it could have been a try for Wales. Those sort of moments. Obviously, we've seen him develop over the years, and seen him grow with the amount of rugby he's had, the amount of coaching and learning he's had amongst his peer group as well. No, it is. You do get proud, and it's a pleasure to see those guys come on.
And Keelan, what do you think the right call was made? To leave him on the bench. Would you like to see him come on against Japan?
There's an argument for and against. I think whether you expose players or not, often it's how you preview and how you review. So I'm sure they've got a work in place that's they've trying to get him to a point where he could play international rugby. The fact he didn't, I'm sure they'll discuss reasons why things are happening and where they were in the sort of moment of that game. And we'll just pick up around some of Keelan's key messages, which we share with Wales, but what suits us to grow Keelan's game as well. So I don't know the ins and outs of it. Perhaps he could have made a difference, but it's by the by. I think it's a big part of Keelan's development to play international rugby at some point, but we'll just keep on with the rugby specific messages.
Well, we've also heard today that Bradley Davis has been released back. Is he likely to play this weekend?
No, we'll have to get him looked at medically. There'll be transfer of work between our medical department and theirs, and we'll see what we've got, but certainly won't be in the mix for any selection our end.
And just adding to what said there about Cillian Giles not playing, do you feel frustrated that he didn't get on?
Somewhat, I guess, in some ways. You look at.
Obviously, you are doing well in the Welsh language anyway, but does it frustrate you if you didn't get on?
I could do possibly, but I'm probably neutral around the whole thing really. As a coach, you try and take my feelings of pride and passion for the game in Wales and my passion for Keelan's development in isolation, and just concentrate on what we're going to coach with Keelan, what he's experiencing now, what we pick up this week and next. This if he's available to us, next when he comes back to us. As I said, development isn't just about a guy playing or not. And I know Rob and their group are empathetic to this. It's what messages you give, the build up to that point of selection or non-selection. If a player doesn't play, what you review with the player after. And when they do play, obviously a review is easier. But sometimes non-selection can help some development of a player if you can actually work the training program around what's going to help him develop in the long term as well.
Did I also get an update on Eli Walker? He had knocked at a hamstring in the game.
Yeah, foot. Yeah, he's he's still in the boot, so won't be available this week, but certainly not a long term. And again, we'll just look after Eli and hopefully get him back for Edinburgh and the Grenoble back to back.
Do you feel unfortunate because he has quite a few injuries?
Yeah, I definitely do. And obviously we've gone through these periods with Eli. I'm certainly more encouraged by Eli's rugby this year. Mind, he's had more of a consistent game. Out in Connacht is his best defensive game I've seen him play for the Ospreys. The Blues games is one of his best offensive games. So the shoots are there. We just obviously need to get a bit more consistent work into Eli in the working week, and we'll see the positivity of his rugby come to the fore. But obviously it does get hindered from time to time. But that's the same for a lot of our athletes.
Gruff, could you just say a few words on Jay Baker and Tom O'Flaherty? Jay, he joined you in this. How was he sort of progressing?
He did well, had a good summer. There's a lot to take on board, coming around our environment. Picked up obviously an injury at the wrong time, but came back into the mix for Aberavon a couple of weeks ago, had half an hour, had a bit of an experience with us, and then delighted to see him finish a couple of tries for Aberavon on the weekend. So, we don't see him as just purely a Premiership player having a go with us. We see him as a potential for the future, and I think we do a lot of work around these players, their career path and some of the opportunities that they may be able to take in a given time. And we've seen that with Tom, someone I've worked closely with for a couple of years, showed a keen interest in his Premiership work with Bridgend 2 years ago. Kept in contact with him when he was out in Montpellier last year, looking at the footage of him in the Espoirs, and thrilled to see him come back and have a bit of progress with us. And these guys obviously have got some athletic difference, but they're learning some rugby stuff all the time, and that's big thing for us, that there is that potential. And again, to have players in our squads with real foot speed, and I'm always trying to add to that, if I'm honest. At 13, 14 and 15, the more the better for me.
What would he need to do, say, Jay, to kick on and become a Pro12 player?
I think it's just the consistency of learning. I think you're seeing someone again with a different background, which is quite exciting, because you would perhaps shape some new learning and new behaviours. But around our defensive game, it's around some discipline, and we talked about positional sense around learning from Munster. These players come into this environment, that's huge for them, so they don't get thrown out there and just exposed to an opposition side that's got expert kickers at 10, 12 and 15. And as well as that, then it's the attacking detail of running lines and understanding where and how they can get the maximum amount of productivity in their carrying and their support play.